The NBA Finals finally tip off tomorrow, so let's break it all down. Let's start with the Western Conference champion, Dallas Mavericks. And one thing we know in this series is Luka Doncic is going to be amazing, because he has been amazing, and he is amazing. I don't know how Boston stops him. And I think there is no true stopping him. It does come down to how can you kind of limit him. Like the joke, you can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him. That is kind of what it is with Luka Doncic. And the thing that would worry me from a Boston standpoint is he and Kyrie absolutely wore down Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference Final. Like Luka, because he is so physical, because he is so cerebral, he wears down whoever is on him. And so that is something I do think Boston has to take into consideration when looking at who they are going to put on him. But I think the real key in this series for the Mavericks, if Kyrie Irving is the second best player in this series, Dallas wins the NBA championship. Luka, we know, is the best player in this series. There is no questioning that. If Kyrie can be better than Tatum and Brown, that is a huge boost to them, and they win the championship that way. Honestly, even if he is third, if it goes Luka, Tatum, or Brown, and then Kyrie, and then the other one of the Jays after that, I still think Dallas wins a championship. Boston needs both Tatum and Brown to step up in this series, because you can pencil in Luka for 7 good games in this series and probably 5 great ones. So you now have to match that and then better the guy who's playing some of the best basketball he's played in half of a decade. Kyrie is such a weapon with this team offensively. If you want to come out and just blitz Luka and get the ball out of his hands, Kyrie Irving has been a threat, and the players around have picked it up, right? Washington has turned into a big shot threat. The bigs have been able to produce at the rim. This is a team that now has options. If you just try to just get the ball out of Luka's hands, okay, well, Kyrie can beat you, Washington's beaten teams, and the big guys can do their part. And another interesting part of this whole series, and maybe this is a part where I have gone too far into the Dallas propaganda, Kyrie is playing his ass off on defense, and I think that's going to be huge here. I don't think Boston can just try to isolate him defensively early on, and think that they're just going to have an easy time of it. He is look, he's not Bruce Bowen. We understand that. He has improved on that end of the floor, but he's not going to be just put him on Tatum and it'll lock him down. It's not that, and I'm not saying it's that. But I do think that there have been times, whether it was Minnesota, or whether it was the Clippers, or whether it was OKC, that thought, okay, let's just get Kyrie and we'll take advantage of that, and off to the next round we'll go. And that's just simply not what it is with this Dallas Mavericks team anymore. Again, I wouldn't even go so far as to suggest Kyrie is a above average defensive player, but he is good enough that I think he is going to cause fits for Boston if that is the way they plan on attacking the Dallas Mavericks. The big question I have defensively for Dallas, what do they do with KP? And this has been the thing that we've been talking about since the beginning of the season, is how do you stop this offense when Kristaps Porzingis is going? When old Tingus Pingus is on a roll, what do you do with him? If you throw Lively or Gafford out at him, he's going to blow by them and get to the rim, and also it takes away your rim protection. So if you do get past Luka or Kyrie, that becomes a bit of a problem, because you have Lively or Gafford out by the three-point line trying to guard that guy. And then if they come in to help, it's a quick swing down over to Porzingis, and he hits an open three. This offense and this team is set up in such a way that they are so difficult to defend. And while the Mavericks, we've talked about it before, have improved greatly on the defensive side, and certainly have improved enough to allow their offense to take over in these playoffs, this is a different animal when you are talking about this Boston Celtics team. And so the other option there, do you put a smaller player on Porzingis and, okay, well, he's not going to blow by him. No, he's just going to bully them in the post and get a layup that way. And so I wonder, again, understanding he is not a good defensive player, I wonder if you put Luka on Porzingis. Again, not a good defensive player, but if KP is going to stay out by the three-point line, Luka is good enough that I don't think he just gets blown by. And if KP is just standing out there, Luka can kind of catch his breath a little bit at certain points. And I think then if KP wants to go down into the block, Luka is at least big enough that he can hold his own long enough to allow Gafford or Lively to come over and provide some help defense. The one part of it that would be an issue is that you would get Porzingis in every screen action ever, and then you have Luka isolated one-on-one with Tatum or Brown or whoever, and that's probably not how you want to live life in this series. So there is no easy way to defend this Celtics team, but I am really fascinated to see what the Mavericks do against Kristaps Porzingis. But the one thing, and I think this is true in almost every series that Boston goes into in these playoffs, Dallas has the coaching edge. Joe Mazzulla has deficiencies that haven't really shown, but I think things in that Pacers series at different times, while it was a sweep, at different points in games, specifically game one, I think really showed up because that shouldn't have been as close, and he just wasn't ready, while Rick Carlisle, I thought, coached circles around him. And now you're going up against Jason Kidd, who is not himself a phenomenal coach, but I trust him in these situations more than Joe Maz. So how will that show up? But the big thing that I think kind of gets forgotten when we're breaking down this series, because Dallas has been such a fun team to watch, and the Mavericks have really got a lot of people behind them. And Boston, we've kind of been around this team for a while now, so it's weird that they've only been to one finals and we're already kind of sick of them. But people are just looking for a way to kind of, oh, well, Dallas could. I mean, look, how are you going to defend? How are you going to whatever? I genuinely don't know how Dallas stops Tatum and Brown. I don't think they have the defenders to throw at both of those guys. Washington will be on one of them, and the other one, you just hope that becomes, I think, the real issue here is this team has taken major strides. This team, being the Mavs, has taken major strides defensively, but this is a completely different animal. The Celtics, when it comes to the offensive side of the basketball, are a one of one in the NBA this season. And like there is, yes, they played better defensively against Minnesota, and yes, they played better defensively against the Thunder, and yes, they played better defensively against the Clippers. None of those teams are Boston. And so how do you get this Celtics team to under 120 points a game? You kind of just have to hope that Boston has a cold day shooting from three. That's basically it. And so that is why, like, I have a ticket from the regular season with the Mavericks to win the NBA championship. I keep wanting to tell myself, like, no, we're good. Like, that Dallas can win this series. And I said before, Dallas can absolutely win this series. If Kyrie Irving shows up and is just a baller, they could win. But then you get down to, okay, well, how do you stop? Like, that's great that your two guys are going to get going. How are they going to even slow down the two best players on Boston? And your hope basically comes down to, maybe they'll stop themselves. That's basically what it's looking at